The Boebert Family Saga, a tale of loyalty and redemption. In the shadow of the Rocky Mountains, where the winds whispered secrets through the pines, the town of Windsor, Colorado, buzzed with a story that rippled far beyond its borders. It was July 2025, and the air was thick with the weight of a scandal that had gripped the nation. At the heart of it was Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, a fiery Republican known for her unapologetic stance and unrelenting loyalty to her family. Her eldest son, Tyler, barely 20 years old, stood accused of a misdemeanor child abuse charge, a shadow cast over the Boebert name, tied to an incident involving his own infant son, Lauren's grandson. The headlines screamed, the critics pounced, and the family faced a storm that threatened to unravel their tightly knit bond. But this was no ordinary tale of political fallout, it was a story of miscommunication, redemption, and the fierce love of a mother determined to stand by her son. The incident. A miscommunication in the heat of summer. It was a sweltering July morning in Windsor, a quiet town about 60 miles northeast of Denver, where the Boebert family had recently settled after Lauren's shift from Colorado's 3rd congressional district to the 4th. The sun beat down on their modest home, a place where Lauren, now 38, juggled her role as a congresswoman with her newer, unexpected title, grandmother. Tyler, her eldest, had become a father at 17, welcoming a son in June 2023, a milestone that made Lauren a grandmother at the tender age of 36. The boy, a bright-eyed toddler, was the light of the family, a symbol of hope amid their often tumultuous lives. On July 11, 2025, the Windsor Police Department issued a citation to Tyler for criminal negligence, a misdemeanor charge stemming from an incident where his young son had wandered out of the house unsupervised. The details were scarce, shrouded in the privacy of a police report not yet public, but Lauren was quick to address the matter. In a statement to People magazine, she described it as, a miscommunication on monitoring my young grandson that recently led to him getting out of our house. No injury had occurred, no death, just a heart-stopping moment that could have ended far worse. The family had already met with Child Protective Services, she assured, to ensure such an incident would not repeat. Tyler has been doing a great job getting his life on track as a father and citizen over the past year, she told reporters, her voice steady but laced with the strain of a mother defending her child. As an adult and father, Tyler will take responsibility for his actions and should be held accountable for poor decisions just like any other citizen. The incident, though minor in its outcome, was a spark in a powder keg. The Boebert family was no stranger to scrutiny. Lauren, a polarizing figure in American politics, had long been a lightning rod for controversy, from her vocal support of gun rights to her ejection from a Denver theater in 2023 for vaping and inappropriate behavior. Her personal life, too, had been fodder for the tabloids, a rocky divorce from her ex-husband Jason, allegations of domestic disputes, and now, her son's legal troubles. Tyler's citation was not his first brush with the law, and the media was quick to dredge up his past, a 2022 car accident, a 2024 arrest for vehicle trespass and theft, and now this. The narrative was clear, the Boeberts were a family in chaos, and Lauren's political star was at risk of dimming under the weight of their troubles. A family forged in fire. To understand the Boeberts, one had to look beyond the headlines to the crucible that shaped them. Lauren Opal Boebert, born Roberts in 1986, was no stranger to hardship. Raised in a working-class family, she dropped out of high school at 18 to raise Tyler, her first of 4 sons. I was a brand new mom, and I had to make hard decisions on successfully raising my child, or getting to high school biology class, she once told the Durango Herald. I chose to take care of my child. That choice set the tone for her life, a fierce devotion to family, even when the world seemed to conspire against them. Tyler, born when Lauren was still a teenager, grew up in the small town of Rifle, Colorado, where Lauren and her then-husband Jason ran Shooter's Grill, a restaurant where staff openly carried firearms. It was a place that embodied Lauren's values, independence, Second Amendment rights, and a defiance of convention. Tyler, the eldest of her 4 boys, followed by Brody, Caden, and Roman. Watched his mother rise from a small-town businesswoman to a national figure, defeating a 5-term incumbent in 2020 to become the U.S. representative for Colorado's 3rd District. But with her rise came scrutiny, and Tyler, still finding his footing as a young man, often bore the brunt of it. Tyler's teenage years were marked by rebellion. In 2022, at 17, he flipped his father's SUV into a creek bed, injuring a passenger who later accused the Boeberts of covering up the incident. The charge was downgraded from careless driving to a defective vehicle for headlights citation, fueling allegations of favoritism. Then, in 2024, Tyler faced a staggering 22 charges, including felony counts for vehicle break-ins, theft, and identity theft. He pleaded guilty to 1 count of attempted identity theft, securing a 2-year deferred sentence that promised a clean record if he completed probation. District Judge John Naley, showing leniency, noted Tyler's youth and lack of prior criminal history. "You have an opportunity you should not squander," Naley told him. Lauren stood by her son through it all. "I love my son Tyler, who has been through some very difficult, public challenges for a young man," she told Newsweek after his 2024 arrest. "It breaks my heart to see my child struggling. I will never give up on him." Her words were not just those of a politician managing a crisis, they were the raw, unfiltered plea of a mother who saw her son's potential beneath his mistakes. The weight of the spotlight. The child abuse citation in July 2025 was a fresh wound, and the media was relentless. Outlets like the Daily Mail, Newsweek, and Westward dissected the incident, noting that Tyler was still on probation from his 2024 plea deal. Speculation swirled about whether this new charge would jeopardize his deferred sentence, potentially landing him back in court with a felony on his record. Social media, particularly X, amplified the story with a mix of outrage and mockery. One user, @DemandJustice25, called Lauren "trailer trash," while others questioned her fitness as a public figure. But Lauren, no stranger to the spotlight, refused to let the narrative define her family. She issued a statement to Westward, calling the incident a one-time event with no injury or physical abuse involved. She emphasized that the family had already met with Child Protective Services to ensure a safe environment for her grandson and her sons. "I am confident this is a one-time incident that we have addressed as a family," she said, her tone resolute. Behind closed doors, though, the Boeberts were grappling with the fallout. Tyler, now 20, was a father himself, navigating the challenges of parenthood under the unforgiving glare of public scrutiny. The toddler, barely 2 years old, was blissfully unaware of the storm surrounding him, but for Tyler, the weight of his mistakes was crushing. Lauren, too, felt the strain. Her political career, built on a platform of conservative values and defiance of the establishment, was at a crossroads. She had narrowly won re-election in 2022, surviving an automatic recount by just 546 votes. Her move to Colorado's 4th District in 2024 was a strategic one, trading a competitive seat for a safer Republican stronghold, but it came at the cost of uprooting her family. Windsor was meant to be a fresh start, a place where Tyler could focus on fatherhood and Lauren could rebuild her image as a hardworking congresswoman. Instead, it became the backdrop for yet another chapter in their saga. The family meeting. In the days following the citation, the Boebert home was a fortress of resolve. Lauren called a family meeting, gathering Tyler, her other sons, and her trusted confidants around the kitchen table. The room was heavy with the scent of coffee and the tension of unspoken fears. Tyler sat at the head, his hands fidgeting, his eyes downcast. He was no longer the reckless teenager who had flipped an SUV or stolen credit cards, he was a father, and the gravity of that role was sinking in. "Tyler," Lauren began, her voice firm but warm, "we've been through worse. You've made mistakes, but you're not defined by them. We're going to get through this, together." She reached across the table, placing her hand over his. "But you need to understand what's at stake. Not just for you, but for your son." Tyler nodded, his jaw tight. "I know, Mom. I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought he was with you, and you thought he was with me. It was a stupid mistake. It was a mistake, Lauren agreed, but it's one we learn from. CPS is watching, the media's watching, and we can't afford another slip-up. You're a father now. That little boy depends on you. The younger boys, Brody, Caden, and Roman, listened in silence, their faces a mix of worry and loyalty. They had grown up in the shadow of their mother's fame, accustomed to the whispers and stares that followed them in Rifle and now Windsor. They knew the world was quick to judge, but they also knew their brother. Tyler was flawed, but he was theirs. Lauren turned to her other sons. We're a family, she said. We don't turn on each other. We don't let the world tear us apart. Tyler's going to court on September 8th, and we'll be there with him. We'll show them we're stronger than their headlines. The courtroom and the reckoning. September 8, 2025, dawned crisp and clear in Weld County. The courthouse in Greeley, a short drive from Windsor, was a no-nonsense building of brick and glass, its halls echoing with the weight of justice. Tyler, dressed in a pressed shirt and tie, walked in with his family at his side. Lauren, in a tailored blazer, exuded confidence, but her eyes betrayed the worry she carried. The media was there, cameras flashing, reporters scribbling notes. Tyler's lawyer, William Trent Palmer, who had guided him through the 2024 plea deal, stood ready to argue that this was, indeed, a one-time incident. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation. The judge, a stern woman with a reputation for fairness, called the case. The charge was simple: criminal negligence, a misdemeanor. The prosecution outlined the incident: a toddler found wandering outside the Boebert home, unharmed but unsupervised. It was a lapse, they argued, that warranted accountability, especially given Tyler's probation status. Palmer countered with a defense rooted in context. Tyler was a young father, still learning the ropes of parenthood. The incident was a miscommunication, not malice. Lauren had already taken steps to ensure it wouldn't happen again, meeting with CPS and implementing stricter monitoring protocols. My client is not a danger, Palmer said. He's a young man trying to do right by his son, under circumstances most 20-year-olds can't imagine. Lauren took the stand, her voice steady as she addressed the court. My son is not perfect, she said, but he's trying. He's been a father since he was 17, and he's faced challenges most adults would crumble under. This was a mistake, not a pattern. Our family has addressed it, and we're committed to keeping my grandson safe. The judge listened intently, her expression unreadable. When she spoke, her words were measured. Mr. Boebert, you're on probation for a serious offense. This incident, while not resulting in harm, raises questions about your judgment. However, I see a family here that's taking responsibility. I'm inclined to give you the benefit of the doubt, but let me be clear, there will be no more chances. She issued a fine and mandated parenting classes, but spared Tyler jail time or a probation violation. The courtroom exhaled, and Lauren squeezed Tyler's hand. It was a victory, but a fragile one. The media would spin it as they pleased, and the public would judge. But for now, the Boeberts had weathered the storm. The road to redemption. Back in Windsor, life resumed its uneasy rhythm. Tyler enrolled in parenting classes, determined to prove himself. Lauren returned to Washington, D.C., for the congressional session, her focus split between her constituents and her family. The headlines faded, replaced by newer scandals, but the scars remained. Tyler's son, oblivious to the drama, grew stronger each day, his laughter a reminder of what was at stake. Lauren, too, was changing. The firebrand who once heckled presidents and sparred with colleagues was softening, her priorities shifting. She spoke less of conspiracy theories and more of family, faith, and second chances. In interviews, she leaned into her role as a grandmother, sharing stories of her grandson's first words and mischievous grin. He's my heart, she told a local reporter, her eyes shining. And so is Tyler. For Tyler, the road to redemption was long. He worked odd jobs, stayed out of trouble, and focused on his son. The weight of his past, car accidents, thefts, now this, hung heavy, but he was determined to rewrite his story. "I'm not my mistakes," he told his mother one evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "I want my son to be proud of me." "You're getting there," Lauren replied, her voice thick with emotion. "And I'm proud of you. A family unbroken." The Boebert saga was far from over. Lauren's political future remained uncertain, with critics circling and supporters rallying. Tyler's probation loomed, a constant reminder of the thin line he walked. But in the quiet moments, away from the cameras and the headlines, the Boeberts found strength in each other. They were a family forged in fire, scarred but unbroken, bound by a love that no scandal could shatter. As the sun dipped below the Rockies, casting a golden glow over Windsor, Lauren looked at her grandson playing in the yard, Tyler chasing him with a grin. She thought of the battles they'd fought, the ones still to come, and she knew one thing for certain: they would face them together. For in the heart of this controversial congresswoman beat the fierce, unyielding love of a mother, a grandmother, a woman who would never give up on her own. And so, the Boebert family saga continued, a story not of perfection, but of perseverance, a testament to the power of family in the face of a world that was all too eager to judge.